Namaste, friends, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm very excited about this week's episode. I am doing a yoga teacher roundtable. So I have two other yoga teachers with me, and we are talking about everything related to this practice, how we found it, how it's changed our lives, how we believe it can change the world, our greatest joys in being a teacher and our biggest challenges, and so much more. I asked the other teachers on the call to give me their mission statement as a yoga teacher. And I won't give you my full mission statement, but part of my mission is to spread this practice as far as I can spread it. I so deeply believe in the healing benefits of this practice, and I believe that everyone walking the planet can benefit from it, regardless of your age, your gender, your culture, your religion. Everyone can benefit from the practice, the science, and the system of yoga. However, I particularly believe in this practice for midlife women. We are just at a place in our lives where we really need the nervous system regulation that yoga provides, and we are ready to dive deep. We're really ready to let go of the shoulds. We're ready to let go of the limiting beliefs. We're ready to step into ourselves and really get to know ourselves on a deeper level. And that is what yoga does. It allows us to get to know ourselves on the deepest of levels. And this is just a stage of life where our brains and our bodies are primed for this practice. So I hope that this show today gives you a little deeper insight into the depth and breadth of this beautiful science and system. And if you would like to go even deeper with me, then head on over to the show notes and sign up for my Substack. You will get a weekly newsletter with reflections from my personal life and about midlife and how it relates to yoga philosophy. And then you'll also get a weekly short embodiment practice. They're 5 to 7 minutes long. And my hope is that you can use that practice all week long to come home to yourself, especially in those moments when you really need it. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoy this episode. I'll see you on the other side. All right, Megan and Anna, welcome to the Midlife Purpose Project. Thank you so much for being here.
For having me.
Yes, I'm excited about our first ever community podcast for yoga teachers. I am very passionate about spreading this practice far and wide, and I think that this podcast has been a great platform for that. And so welcome to this platform. Welcome to spreading the beauty and the magic of yoga beyond just our students in the studio. So if you would do me a favor and just introduce yourselves, Megan, I'll go with you first. If you just tell us your name and where you teach and what you teach, that would be fantastic.
Sure. My name is Megan. I kind of teach all over the place. I teach at Balance Planet in Marlton. I teach at Rancocas Woods Time Travelers Conservatory. I teach at Team 85 in Bordentown, and I teach at a gym called Stellar in Moorestown as well. I teach vinyasa and I teach yin as well as Yoga Nidra. Yeah.
And if you could, well, first I'll just tell the audience because we have people all over the world. So that is New Jersey. All those towns she mentioned is in East Coast of the US, New Jersey. And then I think people are pretty familiar with vinyasa. That's a pretty standard style of yoga, but could you give us a little rundown on what yin is and what Yoga Nidra is?
Yes. So yin is very different from vinyasa in the fact that we are holding stillness in these postures for minutes at a time. The purpose of that is we're working with a cool body as opposed to vinyasa. We're building heat. We're working with the muscles. And yin, we're working way more with the fascia, the connective tissue of the body, as well as the joints and the little muscles that we don't really hit in other classes. So it can be a way more restorative practice for some. It can be a nice complement to a faster paced vinyasa class. I love yin so much because it's helped me to restore my nervous system. So that's why I love that practice. And then it also is a nice complement to Yoga Nidra, which some people say is like a guided meditation. However, when I was taught what Yoga Nidra was, I was told that it's yogic sleep. So essentially we're still awake, but we're being guided through this kind of meditation to be able to kind of peel back the layers of our consciousness in a way to be more aware. People want to say like reach enlightenment. That is a really hard thing to do. But Yoga Nidra is one of the things that you can do to kind of get on that path.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And Anna, how about you?
Yes, my name is Anna Trezzi. So I'm teaching here in Marlton, New Jersey at Balance Planet Yoga as well. And for now, I'm also teaching a lot of privates out of my home or virtually. So I do both of those. I used to pre-COVID travel to folks' homes as well for their privates, but then circumstances changed that. So that's what I've been doing. And I've been teaching, I guess, my own version of a yoga class that I would describe. I've given it the title Yoga and Interoception right now. I focus on interoception being our sense of being able to sense what we're feeling inside of our body. So that's where I put a lot of attention in that class. And then I also teach trauma sensitive yoga, TCTSY, which is trauma centered, trauma sensitive yoga. That's become a passion of mine as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. I love that. And I actually took your training, your trauma training, which was fantastic. It's a lot of people, I think, come to yoga, they bring a lot to yoga. And so I think it's really important for us teachers to at least have some awareness around trauma and how to interact with people who have experienced trauma. So thank you for that. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so our first question, and either one of you can jump in if someone feels particularly called to answer first. It's we'll just let it happen the way it happens. But my first question is, how did yoga change your life? And I invite you to, if you have a story, to share the story. I think many people who end up falling in love with yoga, there is a journey that brings them there. So if you had one, then I would love for you to share it with the audience.
Sure, I'll chime in. Yeah, this is Anna speaking. I guess I would begin with, as a child, my chosen art form was dance. And so I started out, I guess you could say, very embodied in that way. I found that was my joy. That was my way of expressing myself. I tended to be a very quiet natured kid, whispered when I spoke. So my way of expressing myself was through the movement. And so I started that when I was about 4. And that passion was so strong that I ended up pursuing a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Contemporary Dance. So it was actually when I was I'll go back to when I was a child. I was always interested in philosophy, spirituality. I asked to go to therapy as a kid, and I went to therapy to see a therapist alone. I also went basically to a kind of group therapy as a teenager. So I was always interested in all of those things. And then when I was in college, I was introduced to a yoga class by a fellow dancer. So that was my first introduction to yoga. And I started realizing in college that I was experiencing, when I would stretch in the dance classes, a lot of emotional blocks and releases, which fascinated me. And since I was about 9 years old, I had been experiencing anxiety attacks, and those anxiety attacks felt related to those emotional releases when I was stretching. So that really sparked my curiosity. And then I think that's what drew me towards yoga. Once I did join a dance company, yoga became my morning warm up before dance class. And then eventually moving into New York City, pursuing my dream dance company in New York City. And then realizing one day that I just couldn't get myself out of bed and go to dance class anymore. And I couldn't figure out why that was. And it was like something within me knew that I was being called to do something else, that's the only way I can explain it. Because it was at that moment of what's going on here, what's changing, that I decided to go to a yoga teacher training. That's when that happened. And that was where I began to learn how to prevent those anxiety attacks. It was through my yoga teacher training. So yeah, it was through that healing within me. that sparked and compelled me to share that with others. And I think this is a healing modality that is so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you said that last part, that it's a healing modality, because for many people, including myself in the beginning of my own journey, it was just another form of exercise. And I had no idea that it went beyond that, or the, really the true power of the practice when we practice regularly. I had no idea about the philosophy behind it. I had no idea that it was really designed as this path of liberation and freedom. Just none of that. I didn't know any of that. And I think that's important for people to understand that there's so much more to the practice than just the shapes that we make with our body while we're on the mat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Megan, how about you?
Gosh, so many things like popping into my head when you asked that question. But like a lot of people, I found yoga as another form of exercise, probably when I was around 16. I'm 27 now. And at that time, like many teenage girls, I struggled a lot with body image and disordered eating and things of that nature. So I feel like I spent a lot of my teenage and young adult life just so disconnected from my body and like disassociating. And yoga came to me at first as a way to work out. And of course, I'm thinking, I want to lose weight. I want to look a certain way. And then after like being consistent with the practice, I realized that yoga is so much more than just the movement. And sure, it can change your body or make you more flexible. But really at the end of the day, and especially practicing yin, giving myself the space to just be in my body and move the way that I wanted to, it helped me to have a better relationship with my body. I'm just so grateful for that. Like being in stillness in a yin class and being able to give yourself space to kind of create that awareness of like, I don't have to hate living here in this body. Like I can be safe here. So I think that was the biggest thing for me. Like getting on my mat became my safe space. Was like, I don't have to worry about what anybody else thinks about the way that I look or about the way that I move. Like I can just be here and be in my body and be okay with that. So I think how yoga really changed my life. It's like giving me the permission to love myself as
Oh, that's really, really powerful. Oh, full body chills. Really powerful.
Yeah.
Love it. Was there anything in particular? Because I actually do hear a lot of people who are hesitant to go because of exactly what you said, that they are uncomfortable in their bodies and they're like, oh, I'm like in the room with other people and I have these tight clothes on and, they're concerned about what other people will think or how they'll look. So was there something for you that gave you that permission that allowed you to feel that way about the practice?
I think it was just like the consistency of it, finding the style of yoga that I think resonated with me the most. Like I'm not really someone who takes a lot of like power classes or sculpt classes or things like that, which are great classes in themselves. But I think when you're somebody who is so conscious about their bodies in that way, it can be like you're looking around the room like, oh, like they're using that amount of weights and like I'm only doing this and like I can't get into that pose. So I think that finding the style of yoga that you genuinely like to do, and even if that's a guided meditation, something along the lines of that, and also finding instructors that you resonate with. People who, like, I want to shout out Anna because like people who cue in a way that is inclusive and like a safe, like they create a safe space.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, I do really think that is a huge component, that when people walk into a class with a particular instructor, they're like, it's okay to be me here, right? Yeah. I know I'm safe to be me here. And if you can create that as a teacher, then really you've done your job. You've really done your job. That's the goal. Yeah. Yeah. Well, beautiful answers. Go ahead.
What you were saying, so many I can't think of any really physical practices that, when you think of athletes and dancers and I mean, just all the various exercise programs that there are, there aren't really any that are set up for you to not be in some way either competitive or trying to fit your body into looking a certain way. And even if it's not that you have to be shaped a certain way, I'm thinking of dance. Even though I came from more of the contemporary dance background, whereas in ballet, yes, there was a lot of issues with how your physique is, but in contemporary dance, it wasn't so much about that as much as it was that when you're learning choreography in dance, you're trying to match your body to what the teacher is doing. And just that act of embodying what someone else wants me to do
Yeah.
takes you out of your body, right?
Yes.
And so that was that, just like you were saying, Megan, for me, that was what yoga brought me, was a feeling of, oh, yeah, I can actually meet myself where I am and not have to achieve what the outside is asking of me, and
Yeah. And not only meet yourself where you are, but that to know that that's perfect, right? That wherever you are and whatever your pose looks like and however your body feels, that is enough. It's more than enough. And like you're saying, when we're trying to, Anna, when you're trying to replicate what somebody else is doing outside of you, there's this constant judgment of, am I doing it good enough? Do I look like them? Do I, it's this, it sets you up for comparison versus I am just living in this body and doing what feels good in this body, and that is perfect. Yeah. So I really love that. And I think there's really nothing else either that allows you to be so present with yourself, not just your body, but your mind as well, right? Because things like yin, where you're really holding postures for a long period of time and you have to be with your mind. And there's really not much else to do in that moment except for feel the sensations in your body and be with the thoughts in your head. And that is a practice all in it to itself, is to learn to be with the thoughts in your head and the emotions that arise when you're holding those postures. And I can't really think of any other physical practice that does that. Well, that's not true. Things like maybe Tai Chi and things like that, but like a competitive sport, like you were talking about.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
Yeah. All right. So here's a big question for you. How do you think yoga can change the world? I know. How much time do we have?
I mean, kind of like coming back to what you were saying, Katie, about like it's meant to be a liberating practice. I think for me personally, like practicing yoga consistently taught me so much resilience to just like the normal challenges that you face every day. And of course, like the goal would to be to get rid of all these challenges, right? But that's not going to happen. So I think like it's really important for us to kind of all build our resilience. But I think just again, sitting with yourself, coming back to yourself and like realizing the parts of yourself that maybe like are not serving you or your community in the best way. Like yoga is a great way to just go a little bit deeper and see, like, figure out the parts of yourself that are kind of like sabotaging you and the people around you. I think if we all did that, like so many of us would have these crazy realizations or like epiphanies in class of like, damn, like this is how I'm playing into my own suffering and this is how I'm contributing to other people's suffering. Like we're not doing that nearly enough.
Well said.
Very well said. Anna?
Wow. Yeah. What can I say to add to that? Yeah, I resonated with what you're saying about our suffering, and that, yeah, it's truly coming back to yourself and to the capital Y yourself, that the practice brings you to eventually. When you're leaving class and you're coming out into the world from that capital Y yourself, then yeah, you're less likely, right, to contribute to the suffering of others. And you're also giving an opportunity to maybe be a mirror, right, for someone else to say, "Hey, maybe I can be my authentic self a little bit more frequently too." Maybe it's
Yeah.
safe to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, what both of you are kind of touched on is a ripple effect, right? So once you are feeling calm and peaceful, or you're identifying some patterns of behavior that you're like, oh, this isn't serving me. I need to investigate this and maybe release some of these patterns. That impacts everyone that you come in contact with. And then whatever that interaction is, and this is how I always think about it, because I see students coming into class, and a lot of times they're hurried and they're stressed and their ears are up at their shoulders, and their faces look less than joyful. And then that hour goes by and they are so relaxed, and they just seem so much happier and more joyful at the end of class. And I think, well, how many people are they going to come in contact now after they leave this class, that they're going to have such better interactions with these people because they feel better on the inside? And then how is that interaction going to not only impact that person, but the next person that person interacts with, and so on and so forth? This, tremendous ripple effect we can have by learning to come to stillness and to come to our own awareness, and to come to that peace that resides inside of us.
Yeah, and to communicate it, even for a kindergartner, I have my wonderful tank top that I love to wear that just says, "I'm nicer after yoga."
Yes. Yes, I'm nicer after
What was
yoga.
that?
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, and it builds, because the more you do it, the more you start residing in that space, we'll call it the nicer space, the calmer space, the more peaceful space. The more often you practice, the more you train your brain to live there. And so it's something that starts amplifying over time. And I think that that's really another amazing part of the practice.
Yeah, you're less likely to then project all of your crap onto other people when you give yourself that space.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you're more likely, I think, to reflect on your own behavior from a calm and centered space. You're less likely to judge yourself, more likely to have self-compassion. And all of these things, again, impact all of your relationships, all of your interactions, and can then little by little change the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could also even say, like, when you talk about yoga philosophy, things like the yamas and the niyamas, which are like these personal and social concepts that we should be like practicing as yoga teachers and students. Ahimsa, non-violence. Like, of course, we should not be inflicting violence on anyone or ourselves. For things like truthfulness. Like, all of these things are such important concepts for everyone, whether you practice or teach yoga or not, to be conscious of.
Yes, absolutely. I remember when I first started learning the yamas and the niyamas, at first glance, I was like, nonviolence, of course. I mean, duh, right? And then when you start going into it more deeply and you realize how nuanced this concept actually is, and how all of these years of practice, my own personal practice, and I still find myself being violent to myself in ways. And which I think is another thing I guess I would love for you guys to speak to, which is the concept of this ongoing practice, that as yoga teachers, do you have it all figured out?
Absolutely not.
I knew that would be the answer. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Because I wonder if students walk into a class thinking she's got it all figured out, like she's the teacher, she is all knowing, she's perfect at applying all these concepts, or if they understand that we're really just normal humans. Yeah.
That's so important to me to recognize, that as much as I may have acquired over the years some expertise in this area, I am so not an expert, especially an expert over any student that comes into the class. It's all about guiding folks to be their own expert, to be able to turn towards themselves and be guided by their own sensations so that they're their own expert. And that is the practice. We never we never arrive anywhere. There's nowhere to arrive. It's the continuous turning towards yourself and attending to yourself and building trust that way.
Yeah.
And over time, like, I feel like I'm going to say the word awareness a million times, but yeah, over time you build this awareness of like, oh, I'm having like a bad thought about myself right now. Like, let me check myself and say, listen, I know I'm having a bad day. Like, things are not going my way, but this is not me. Like, this is not who I am. It's just a bad feeling. And I can notice that and kind of sit in that, like allow yourself to feel it and then let it go and like try to have a clean slate the next time you come in to teach or to show up at work or as a parent or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest skill that yoga has given me is this. I love the word awareness. We use it all the time on the show. I believe everything comes back to awareness. Awareness of thoughts, awareness of sensation, awareness of just awareness. But this ability to detach from the thought, from the emotion, from the sensation, and to actually look at it as if I were separate from it. So I can see it. There it is. It's happening. I'm experiencing it, but I see it from a distance. And so it's easier to come back to center when I recognize that I've kind of, taken a little detour, but the detours still happen and they happen all the time. And it requires a constant practice of bringing my awareness back. But that is the practice, right? I think that is really the beauty of this entire system of yoga is the ability to detach from our thoughts, feelings, emotions, see them for what they are, not us, and then let them pass through us.
Right.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. And what's so funny is even with all those years, I was 9 when I started having these anxiety attacks, all those years of going to so many different doctors and getting a scan and getting this, like, what's wrong with my child, my mother?
Yeah.
Never getting an answer. There was never a cause or an ailment that they could name, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was studying trauma sensitive yoga that I figured out on my own it's generalized anxiety disorder, that guided me to that answer that I'd been searching for so many years and was the way to healing it as well.
Almost as if, so are you saying that being able to just become aware of what it is was the healing?
Very good question. No, I would say that prior to even being aware, because what is a label? It's just describing a cluster of symptoms. But at least I would say when I was in the yoga teacher training, that was when I started working with breath work in such a way that, again, the awareness that you were mentioning, with awareness of the qualities of energy that I was bringing to myself in that breath work, that it doesn't have to be the right way or the wrong way. It's that there's a quality of energy that you can bring into your breath work that allowed me to prevent those anxiety attacks from coming on. So when I could sense and have awareness of the sensations that come up when it's about to come on, and then I can bring my attention to my breath with a certain quality of energy that was more compassionate. Yeah, that was the healing. And then later on discovering all those years, this is called now, they've given it a name, all that searching for
answers. Yes. Okay. This one's a softball. What is your favorite part of being a teacher?
I love just connecting with my students. Like, there is nothing that feels better than after class, like someone coming up to you and saying, like, I really needed that. Like, that's exactly the practice I needed today. Like, it just feels so rewarding to be able to like help someone in that way. So I would say the community aspect of being a teacher is my favorite part.
Okay. How about you, Anna?
Yeah, that's a good one, Megan. For me, gosh, favorite part of being a teacher. I guess it fills my heart to see that someone has trusted me with their care, in their care, because I do feel really blessed to have private students that I see weekly that also, have trusted me over many, many years. And that just feels really special,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Beautiful. And how about your favorite part of being a student? Is there a favorite part of the practice? Is it, breath or meditation or movement or philosophy or anything that stands out for you as your favorite part of the practice?
I mean, I love it all, but I think definitely working with the breath, connecting to your breath has been like the driving force of why I practice yoga. Again, coming back to like just being so disconnected from my body, working with the breath has been huge for me.
Okay. How about you, Anna?
Oh gosh, I can't pick.
I know it's so hard, isn't it? I'm glad I don't have to answer the question.
Hmm. I mean, breath work is way up there. I agree, Megan. I guess I also feel like the way it keeps me on track, bringing me back to that capital YU, bringing it back to myself, the core of myself. Yeah, it's just a lovely way to practice self-care,
Yeah.
to practice the loving of myself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, because yoga is a whole system. And so I guess I want my audience to know that you don't actually have to get on a mat if you don't want to, right? You could still be practicing yoga just by doing some breath work or doing a meditation or studying some scripture. There's lots of different ways that you can participate in this beautiful practice, even if the asana part just doesn't call to you for
Yeah.
whatever reason. I think I would have to, I said I wouldn't answer, but I will. I think mine would be, I do love the breath. I love it all. I mean, there's really no part of this system that I don't love, but I think if I could only keep one, if someone said, I'm sorry, but you can only keep one piece of this practice, and I had to choose, for me, I think it would be meditation. I think it's probably been the most impactful part of the practice for me personally. So what I lost my track here. Okay. Where in your life or what part of your life has yoga had the most impact? So this could be in your work life, your parenting, your relationships, your relationship with yourself. Is there a part of your life that you feel like yoga has most deeply impacted?
Mm.
I think for me, it has definitely, the biggest thing is probably the relationship with myself and my confidence, which has just rippled into every area of my life. But I decided to become a yoga teacher after being in HR for like a year and a half and just absolutely hated it. And I was just miserable, but I felt like that's what I had to do because that's what everybody tells you, right? So by taking that leap to do my 200 hour, I feel like that was the first time I ever said to myself, like, you can do this. Like, you can actually take control of your life and do what makes you happy and what you're called to do, as opposed to what you think is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And by doing that, like in the last year, because I just got my 200 hour last June, I have just completely changed into like somebody who is not afraid to stand up for the things that I believe in or make certain decisions, even though people think that it's stupid or whatever. And then because of that, I'm way more confident in my relationship, and me and my fiance, like I'm able to solve conflicts way better. I don't find that I'm as like irritable at certain things. Like I'm able to just like take things for what they are and kind of just like let it roll off my back in a way.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. How about you, Anna?
Can you repeat the question? I got caught up in listening to Megan.
Yes. So the question was, what part of your life do you think yoga has impacted the most deeply? And it doesn't even, I guess you could expand it to even a period of your life or a particular sector of your life that you think, thank goodness I had yoga.
Yeah. Gosh, it affects every aspect of your life, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's how we meet each moment. I guess,
Yeah.
the more you practice it, the more you can sprinkle it throughout your day in those little snippets,
Yeah.
and it can just permeate every part of your life, every relationship, and myself and with others. I don't know if I could say, what it has affected most. I mean, there's my health, my physical health, my emotional, psychological health, spiritual. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know that's not a satisfying answer.
It's okay. But you also are, I mean, it is the truth, right? Because it's a living practice and we take it with us into everything that we do. So it does impact all areas of our lives. For myself, I have been through some really hard things. And I think for me personally, it's a way of living. But if I had to answer what thing I was most grateful for, it's that I had it when I was going through these really, really hard things. Because I'm not sure how I would have made it through those things without every part of the practice. The philosophy being a big part, but the movement, the breath, the meditation, the awareness, the learning to how to be aware, the learning how to, keep distance from my emotions and not let them completely control me and envelop me. Um, the community, the beautiful community that comes with yoga, at least in our case, we have such a beautiful community. So I would say, I think Megan, you mentioned earlier resilience, like that resilience in the face of life's really tough stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah.
true, Katie. When you say that, it makes me remember this past weekend when I was teaching a trauma sensitive yoga class, and one of the students was so kind to ask me how I'm doing. And I said, to be real, this has been a really tough week. It's been a week where you feel like when it rains, it pours. Every important person in your life has having chaos and upheaval. And I thought, wow, I feel so lucky that I have this practice that I can come to, because
Yes.
I'm so surprised at how resourced I feel at this time, when you
Yeah.
would think, how could I feel so calm and okay in the chaos?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
one of those weeks. So that's resonates with me for sure.
Yeah. And as a teacher, what you're saying is making me think of something that I experienced last night, which I also have had all week. Actually, right before we got on this call, I was actually crying right before we got on this call because I've had a week. And in yoga, we talk about seva, which is selfless service. And I was really struggling last night, and someone needed a sub at the studio to teach. And I thought, I really want to help this person out, but I don't know. Like, I just don't know if I have it in me. But ultimately, I decided I knew how stressed she was, that she wasn't going to be able to make her class. I knew there were a lot of students who had already signed up and they would really be sad if the class was canceled. And so I decided to do it. And that's seva. Like at the end, I was like, I feel a million times better. And I was teaching the class, I wasn't taking the class, but the ability to just be able to give of yourself and know that you're having an impact and that students are grateful and that there's this community feel and everyone's chatting and really becoming friends with one another, not just people who stand next to each other on a mat and do these poses. It fills you up. It really does.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We talked about this next one. You guys answered this next question. I was going to ask you, how do you bring the practice into everyday life? But you really nailed it. What would you say the hardest part of teaching is?
Hmm. I think for me, it's like the self-doubt that comes with being in the position of a teacher, feeling as though like I'm not qualified enough, or people are not going to, or rather, I'm not going to reach people in the way that they need. But then, like, you have to remind yourself, like, we're all kind of riding this wave together. So usually, like, what I need in my own practice resonates with my students, and that's also what they need most of the time, some of the time. So yeah, I think for me, hardest part is just always reminding myself that, like, if I wasn't supposed to be in the seat of the teacher, like, I wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
I remember during my yoga teacher training, Megan, did you do yours at YTT? Or I'm sorry, at BPY?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So did I. And Cheryl used the word imposter syndrome. And I was like, I don't know what I don't even know what that is. And then after I learned about it, I was like, oh yeah, I totally have that.
Yeah.
I just didn't have a phrase for it. And it doesn't seem to go away. At least it hasn't yet for me, this imposter syndrome. It keeps showing up. It just keeps rearing its head. And it's one of those things to be able to have that distance and be like, oh, I see that. That's imposter syndrome. And like you're saying, Megan, like if it's resonating with me, it's going to resonate with someone else. If I wasn't meant to be in this role, then I wouldn't be. Part of the practice is this deep knowing that every moment is exactly as it is supposed to be. So if a student comes into a class and the class isn't exactly what he or she wanted, that part of the practice of yoga is to understand that they're there for a reason. And they, have to learn to detach from their desired outcome so that they can be present in the moment, right? That's part of our philosophy. And so that does give me it soothes me a little bit when I think about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what you were just saying, Katie, is actually what was going on in my mind about when, I think the hardest part of teaching is my own insecurities. And when is this feeling that, there's going to be somebody in the class at times who has an idea of what yoga is, and then my class is not going to fit that mold. Not to say that we all have preferences, right? Or maybe a mood that we want to meet for that particular class, and maybe it's not going to necessarily meet each and every person where they are, and we can't control for that. But I guess what I mean is, that we have this image or idea of what yoga is sometimes, especially with the way it's been promoted or advertised in our society. And so, I feel like sometimes I get that fear that, I don't want to turn someone off from yoga because it's not fitting their concept of what it is. And I have to release that and let that go and know that, they're getting what they came to get, and I can't control for that.
Yeah. No, that's great. It's great. Even last night, as I mentioned, I subbed this class for our co-owner of our studio, and her and I have very different teaching styles. And I recognized when I walked into the class that there was this extra level of nerves, because I thought, well, these students are her regular students. They're expecting, it was a last minute switch. Many of them may have walked in and not even known that I was going to be subbing for her. And I already, I started the self-judgment of, how should I alter my teaching style and try to make this practice more similar to what she offers? And, it's all in the practice of becoming aware of that, and then really being able to, and I think, Megan, you mentioned this self-trust, right? Being able to sink in and say, no, I trust myself to offer what is authentic to me, and that will be enough for the students that are here. But it's not easy.
Right. And then it's like, when you think, oh, I have like such big shoes to fill, like I need to change myself or the way that I teach, like then it's really not going to land with your students, because it's not authentic, and that's not true.
Yes. I think that's so true. The more authentic you can be as a teacher, the students just feel it. They just feel it. And I think it takes time too. Like, I think over time you kind of find your groove as a teacher. Because in the beginning, we are sort of emulating people that we have enjoyed taking classes from, or people who have, coached us and guided us because we haven't tested the water for ourselves. But finding our own voice as a teacher is really powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so what is your mission statement as a yoga teacher?
I had to prepare for this one.
I know. I didn't want to bring you on here and ask that question without preparing you for that one.
Well, I had one that I had created when I was in YTT. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, this is all still very true. But now that I've been teaching, I had to adjust a little bit. So this is what I came up with. I did write it down because, my mission is to guide students out of survival mode and back into their natural state of calm, supporting them in building regulation, resilience, and embodied confidence through intentional movement and restorative practice.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Anything that has to do with nervous system regulation, that is my jam.
Yeah. It took me years of doing yoga. I mean, decades before I realized, oh, wait, this is actually a nervous system regulation practice. I was a little late to the game there, but I got it now. How about you, Anna?
Yeah. I guess I'd say that my mission statement would be conveying that embodiment is the pathway to healing and thriving through guiding folks to turn towards sensations and emotions, turning toward your pain or discomfort, whether it's emotional or physical, and to listen to what that pain is communicating to you. And practicing self-compassion is helpful when bringing awareness to our pain and turning toward our sensations and emotions. That turning toward those should be on your own terms, at your own pace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Love that too. Yeah. And last question is, if you had a billboard, what would you put on it?
The thing that pops into my brain that I want to say is like in big bold letters, like unclench your jaw. Or like taking a deep breath today.
Yes.
I'm so jealous of that. See, I need more humor in my life. And,
I know, me
I
too.
thought, if only I could come up with something that was funny and make people laugh, and I'm not good at that.
Yeah, me neither. That's not my skill set.
Love it.
All right.
So here's my billboard.
Okay.
I'm kind of a nerd, so this is going to sound a little nerdy. You are here at Earth School to incorporate compassion in all that you do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I had to think about mine for this episode. I was like, what would I put up there? And it's so hard because there's so many different things I could put up there. But I think I would put, if you want to change the world, begin by learning to love yourself unconditionally. I think that's where the ripple starts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for being here and sharing your experience and your wisdom and your heart and your energy and all of your beautifulness. I just really, really appreciate it.
Honor.
Appreciate you, Katie. Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thanks
It's
for your
my
beautiful
pleasure.
platform.
You are so welcome. And is there any contact information that you would want to share with listeners, Instagram profiles or anything you want, just send it my way and I will make sure to include it in the show notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. That was super fun. And I hope there was something in this episode that helped you to understand the practice of yoga on a little bit deeper level. Maybe something really landed with you or piqued your interest. If that happened, I would love to know what it was. Please get in contact with me and let me know really what touched you from this episode. If you'd like to stay in touch with Anna or with Megan, I am placing their contact information in the show notes so you can find that information there. And If you want to stay in closer contact with me, head over to the show notes and sign up for my newsletter, where you will receive yogic wisdom for midlife, as well as weekly practices to keep you grounded, centered, and peaceful. All right, my friends, have a beautiful week. I love you so much. Namaste.